different kind of look at life. There are many different roads and many different curves. Some are cliffs and some are straight roads. And it's a question of how you deal with them.
Royal tension is boiling over as Prince Andrew has stunned Sarah Ferguson with an abrupt and bold demand immediately after her public embarrassment. Palace insiders warn that tensions are escalating fast and secrets behind royal doors are heating up. What pushed Andrew to act while Sarah was still livid, and what hidden turmoil is fueling this explosive standoff? Their story has turned into a fairy tale no one saw coming. Sarah Ferguson and Prince Andrew's relationship began in a way that felt almost destined, and their bond was immediate from the moment they reconnected as adults. Sarah first encountered Andrew at age 12, but it wasn't until 1985, when Princess Diana invited her to Royal Ascot, that their romance truly ignited. Within 6 months of that pivotal reunion, the couple announced their engagement to an excited British public who adored Sarah's relatable, down-to-earth charm. Their wedding on July 23, 1986, at Westminster Abbey delivered the kind of royal spectacle the world had come to expect from the House of Windsor. Sarah later described the moment as her Cinderella experience, remembering how nervous she felt coming down the stairs at Clarence House while crowds chanted "Fergie, Fergie" outside. Her father waited at the bottom of the staircase, and together they traveled to the Abbey in a glass carriage, both admitting they didn't know what to do because neither had ever been in such a situation. The ceremony was viewed by millions worldwide, and Sarah officially became the Duchess of York when Queen Elizabeth II granted her the title. Although the early years of their marriage appeared ideal, the couple welcomed 2 daughters, Princess Beatrice in 1988 and Princess Eugenie in 1990. Cracks were forming behind palace walls as Andrew's naval career kept him away for long periods. Sarah later said his constant absences were a major reason for their eventual split, explaining she spent only about 40 days with her husband during the first year of marriage. Despite the emotional distance, they tried to maintain unity for their daughters and attempted to manage the strain of royal duties and long separations. However, as their marriage buckled under protocol and physical distance, an even more damaging association was silently forming in the background: the Jeffrey Epstein connection that changed everything. Their friendship with Epstein ended up being deeply destructive and became a crucial factor in derailing their lives. When the public discovered how close they had been to Epstein, people were stunned. Epstein, an affluent financier later convicted of crimes involving a minor, became closely linked to Andrew and Sarah in the late 1990s. At first, it looked like just another elite circle friendship, but as time passed, it became clear that their connection involved a troubling mix of personal and financial ties. In 2011, Sarah publicly apologized for accepting £15,000 from Epstein to settle a debt owed to her former assistant, calling it a huge lapse in judgment in an interview with the Evening Standard. She appeared deeply remorseful and vowed never to have anything to do with Epstein again, despite this being 3 years after he had already served time for his crimes. The British public initially chose to believe she had simply made a desperate mistake. But leaked emails from 2011 later showed that Sarah contacted Epstein again after her apology, calling him a steadfast, generous, and supreme friend. When these emails surfaced in September 2025, they caused massive fallout because they showed her apology had been misleading or intentionally untruthful. Several charities, including Julia's House, immediately removed her as patron after the emails became public. A representative claimed the emails were written after Epstein threatened her, but the explanation did little to calm public anger. The scandal also pulled Andrew back into the spotlight, as leaked emails appeared to show him telling Epstein they would play some more soon in 2011, contradicting his public claim that he cut ties with Epstein in 2010. While the Epstein revelations were damaging enough, they soon collided with an even more explosive allegation that threatened Andrew's entire position within the royal family: Virginia Giuffer's accusations and the legal battle. Giuffer, known as one of Epstein's victims, alleged that Andrew assaulted her 3 times in the early 2000s, shocking the royal family and completely upending his life.
I mean, it was horrible, and this guy was sweating all over me. Like, his sweat was like, it was raining basically everywhere, and I was just like, whoa, grossed out from it. But I knew.
When she was only 17 and being trafficked by Epstein, Andrew repeatedly denied each of these accusations and insisted none of them were true. But even with his denials, the damage to his reputation was enormous. People stopped trusting him, and the scandal grew so serious that he was forced to step away from royal duties in 2019. In 2021, Giuffer filed a civil lawsuit against Andrew in the US, and the case quickly turned into an international spectacle that put the British monarchy under intense global scrutiny. The lawsuit included detailed claims of abuse, and Andrew's lawyers worked urgently to get the case dismissed before it reached trial. After months of legal battles and relentless negative press, Andrew agreed to an out-of-court settlement with Giuffer in 2022. Although he insisted the settlement was not an admission of guilt, reports suggested the payout was large enough to satisfy her legal team. For a short time afterward, it seemed like the worst might finally be behind Andrew and Sarah, and they continued their strange living arrangement at Royal Lodge as if hoping the public would eventually forget. But in 2025, Virginia's posthumous memoir titled Nobody's Girl was released after her tragic death at age 41 on April 25, 2025. The book reignited the controversy with new details about her claims against Andrew, and the renewed media attention made it impossible for King Charles to protect his younger brother any longer. The timing couldn't have been worse as more information about Andrew and Sarah's Epstein ties surfaced at the same time. While Andrew struggled with the legal and public fallout from Giuffre's allegations, his ex-wife was fighting desperately to hold onto her public identity and any remaining royal connections. Sarah's entire sense of self had become tightly bound to her royal status, and watching it disappear left her emotionally shattered. For nearly 40 years she had been the Duchess of York, a title she kept even after divorcing Andrew in 1996. It shaped her reputation, supported her charity work, and gave her a purpose that extended far beyond her failed marriage. When Andrew announced on October 17, 2025 that he would stop using his Duke of York title because of the ongoing accusations, Sarah was forced into an impossible decision about her own identity. Just 4 days later, she changed her social media accounts and removed all references to her Duchess title, even switching her Twitter handle from Sarah the Duchess to @SarahMFergie15. Commentator Jonathan Sullivan said the loss was emotionally crushing for her because her identity had been completely tied to being the Duchess of York, and insiders confirmed she was heartbroken and extremely anxious about her future. The emotional shock of losing her royal safety net showed in ways that worried even her critics. Broadcaster Helena Chard told Fox News Digital that Sarah wasn't doing well, and that her nerves were frayed as she faced being cut off from the royal world that defined her entire adult life. Her older sister Jane even flew in from Australia to support her, and insiders claimed Sarah was close to a nervous breakdown as she realized the full reality of her situation. The woman who once rode to Westminster Abbey in a glass carriage now faced the possibility of complete social and financial isolation. While Sarah battled the emotional collapse of losing her title, King Charles prepared to take an even harsher step against Andrew. In October 2025, he made a surprising and historic decision to strip his brother of his prince title entirely. Buckingham Palace released a statement confirming the king had begun a formal process to remove Andrew's style, titles, and honors, meaning he would no longer be addressed as Prince Andrew and would instead go by Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. This was unheard of in modern royal history. While noble titles like Duke or Earl can be relinquished, the title of Prince is considered inherent, something someone is born with. Removing it made clear how serious the situation had become. Experts widely agreed Charles felt forced into this by massive public pressure, and concerns that Parliament might step in if the monarchy didn't act on its own. The palace statement also addressed Andrew's lease at Royal Lodge, implying that the legal protection he had enjoyed there was coming to an end. They stated the palace would no longer speak for Andrew, meaning he was no longer a working royal or an official representative of the monarchy. For him, this marked the final step in a long decline. His reputation had been crumbling for years, but in recent months it had collapsed completely. As Andrew dealt with the humiliation of losing his title, the fight over his longtime home was reaching its breaking point. His shocking demand for 2 houses stunned even royal insiders. Royal Lodge had been his sanctuary and symbol of status for over 2 decades, and his attempt to cling to a trace of his old life led to a demand so bold that even his supporters were astonished. Andrew had signed a 75-year lease on Royal Lodge in 2003, paying £1 million up front and another £7.5 million for renovations in 2005. For years, this lease protected him from eviction, but the scandals finally gave King Charles grounds to force him out. In October 2025, reports revealed that Andrew and Sarah were in intense discussions with palace officials about leaving Royal Lodge, but when negotiations began, their requests shocked royal watchers. According to sources who spoke to The Sun, Andrew agreed to vacate Royal Lodge only if he was given Frogmore Cottage, formerly Harry and Meghan's home. On top of that, Sarah made her own request. She wanted Adelaide Cottage, which would soon be empty as William and Kate prepared to move to Forest Lodge. In other words, Andrew and Sarah asked for 2 separate royal residences, one each in exchange for giving up the one home they currently shared. Many saw this as wildly unrealistic, given Andrew's scandal and Sarah's lack of any official royal role since 1996. Royal expert Richard Fitzwilliams told the Daily Mail the pair must be living in a fantasy world if they believed the requests would be taken seriously. He questioned why the Crown Estate should provide Sarah with any housing at all. Commentator Jenny Bond added that it was astonishing that Andrew and Sarah seemed deaf to public outrage over their misleading statements about Epstein. Meanwhile, tension between the two behind closed doors was getting worse. Inside Royal Lodge, the bond Andrew and Sarah had maintained for nearly 3 decades, through divorce and multiple scandals, was collapsing. People close to them said they were living separate lives in different wings of the mansion and only met for meals, where conversations were strained and focused on their uncertain futures. The companionship that once made their strange post-divorce arrangement work had vanished, replaced by fear, blame, and a shared sense that everything was falling apart. Sarah, always the more emotionally expressive of the two, was reportedly panicking about the future as she faced losing her title, her patronages, her public image, and possibly even her home. Biographer Phil Dampier told Woman's Day that he heard Sarah was on the verge of a nervous breakdown, and that her sister Jane flew in specifically to help her through the crisis. The once famously close ex-couple now found themselves distant and uneasy around each other. Insiders said their conversations were intense and filled with dread about their limited options. For Sarah, the thought of being completely cut off from the royal world was not just practically devastating, it was an existential blow. Then came Andrew's most painful act yet. In their final days at Royal Lodge, he reportedly demanded that Sarah be kept away from him, leaving her even more isolated and hurt. According to sources who spoke to Woman's Day, Sarah was furious and devastated by Andrew's request, which marked a shocking reversal for a pair who had remained unusually close for nearly 30 years. Some insiders claimed Andrew blamed Sarah for worsening the scandal, especially after her emails praising Epstein leaked, adding more fuel to the international outrage. While many felt this was unfair since Andrew himself had maintained ties with Epstein during that same time, the damage to their relationship was undeniable. Royal expert Hilary Fordwich told Fox News Digital that Sarah was privately telling people she no longer believed in Andrew and was preparing to separate herself from him entirely after years of defending him. Commentator Jenny Bond admitted she was stunned the two were finally drifting apart, since they had always appeared inseparable despite no longer being romantic partners. As Sarah dealt with this emotional betrayal, news emerged that she was considering a move to Portugal. Reports suggested she planned to relocate in January to a £3.6 million villa owned by Princess Eugenie and her husband in the exclusive Costa Terra Golf and Ocean Club. The oceanfront property, located about 82 miles south of Lisbon, would give Sarah privacy and space from the British media. A wealthy resident in the gated community said preparations were underway for her arrival, including setting up a guest suite for her extended stay. This suggested Sarah was preparing for a semi-permanent move to rebuild her life away from the scrutiny of the United Kingdom. However, another source told People magazine that Sarah had never requested a royal property for herself and was focused on independence rather than privilege. The conflicting reports made it unclear whether Sarah herself knew what her next step would be. While Sarah considered a new life abroad, Andrew faced his own relocation, one that symbolized the total collapse of his former royal existence. According to People magazine, Andrew is expected to move to a property on the Sandringham estate, funded privately by King Charles. The home is far more modest than Royal Lodge and lacks any royal grandeur, signaling Andrew's permanent removal from the royal spotlight. Unlike the 30-room mansion he shared with Sarah, his new home will be simple and suitable for a private citizen. The move ensures Andrew remains far from Windsor, where William, Kate, and their children will live at Forest Lodge. It also formally ends Andrew and Sarah's 17-year co-living arrangement after their divorce. Reports also confirmed that neither Andrew nor Sarah will attend the royal family's Christmas at Sandringham this year. Do you believe Andrew and Sarah's punishment fits their actions, or has the royal family gone too far by stripping them of titles and homes? Should Sarah face the same level of blame for the Epstein scandal, even though she wasn't accused the way Andrew was? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Click the next video on your screen, you'll enjoy it.